Hi all and welcome to the first episode of DevTalk, a YouTube show where I talk about different gaming related topics from a software developer standpoint. Today I want to talk about early access as a thing. I want to try to explain why I think that it is good, but why you still should be cautious about it. The game in the background is Grim Dawn. A video on it will be available a bit later. Let's start by answering the question, what is early access? Essentially, it's a way to buy an unfinished product. Why would you want to do that? Well, for example, to support the developer with your money, or if you are willing to go further than that, to support them with your feedback on the actual product. But wait a second, some of you might say, that sounds like a Kickstarter, so what's the difference here? The biggest difference is that on a Kickstarter, developers sell you an idea. They usually do have some sort of a prototype that they show off, but they still sell you an idea. Early access, on the other hand, sells you a playable version of the game. It might not have all the content in there, maybe lacking some models and textures, but generally it has all the core mechanics in there, so you can just start up the game and figure out if you like the idea or not. I would actually say that early access complements the Kickstarter. It gives the developers more flexibility, gives them a way to raise additional funding easily, way to get the feedback on early stages to improve the product. In addition, having a lot of users at early stages of the game lifespan helps to pinpoint the annoying bugs more easily, because having a lot of source code and logic doesn't really help too much when you want to pinpoint this one tiny bug that pops up on one specific hardware configuration. It's also a pretty good way to find the design issues early on, because when there's only a few developers who are coding this, they don't usually spend much time playing the actual game. But when you have a few hundred fans that play the game every day for a few hours, the design issues pop up quite fast. Unfortunately, early access is not all that positive. Selling unfinished products has its downsides, as you might imagine. The biggest problem, and I guess the biggest fear of any consumer, is that the early access title will become an abandonware. Meaning that, the developers will just get their money and stop developing the product in any way. How do you deal with this? Well, the easiest way is just not to buy the thing right away. Wait a few months, see how frequent the updates are, how transparent the developers are about what they are doing at the moment, how active are their community, and, stuff like this. It is worth noting that if you see stuff like a developer using the early access as a selling point, or a developer trying to advertise the early access title as if it was a full release, you should consider those huge warning signs. It does not necessarily mean that the developers are trying to screw you. Sometimes it happens that, there's a very small dev team and there's like a set of developers and designers and they don't know anything about marketing and they just did something stupid because they saw someone else doing this. But you don't want to risk. Just wait a bit, see how it goes. Better safe than sorry. Another issue is large companies abusing early access. I get it when small indie developers come to early access and say, okay, we worked on this game for 8 months or a year using our own funds and we've run out of them and now we want to finish the game, but we need your help. So please buy our early access title, play it, try it, give us your feedback, give us your money, and we will finish it in next year or so. I get that. That sounds reasonable. But when I see someone like Sony Online Entertainment or, someone as huge as this, like imagine EA doing this, what they are doing is basically saying, hey, look, we don't want to pay to our testers, we don't want to hire focus groups, we just want to sell you unfinished product and let you beta test for us for free. And from my perspective, since they do have money to hire professionals to do this work, they are not really allowed to do this. Simply because hiring professionals would actually make the results better and deliver them faster because the guys know what they do, while the community who's playing the game will, there's not that many people who actually report bugs when you do something like this. Indie developers, on the other hand, might not have enough funds to hire professional testers, and that's where the early access comes in as a perfect tool for the early stages of development. There are as well some smaller problems that might appear over the course of the early access game lifespan. One of them is stretching the development time. And I think this problem is directly related to unhappiness of the most of the early access customers, because people want to play the game right away and they want to play it with a complete feature set that the developers promised to them. The funny part is that the people who actually bought the early access title is, well, I wouldn't say the ones to blame, but let's say the ones who actually influenced this development time stretch. This is actually pretty easy to explain. Imagine you're an indie developer, you're been developing your game for some time now and you're running out of money. Obviously what you want to do is finish your game fast, put it out on the market to get some money to pay for your food and your rent, right? But then you decide to put your beta version on early access, and let's say you are successful and a lot of people buy it. So now you actually have money to pay for your rent, now you have money to pay for your food, and you have enough time to develop the game in a way you wanted before, so there's no need to rush anymore. Guess what happens next? Right, developer starts taking his time and the development timeline stretches quite a bit. For some people that will be a problem, for some not, but that's up to you to decide. So how should you look at the early access program? First and foremost, the early access as well as the Kickstarter is the way to support the developers and the games you like with your money. In addition, if you want to, you can help the developers using your time by providing the feedback and bug reports for the early stages of the development to help them polish the game better. It might also be quite fun to observe the development of the game closely. For example, if you're tracking the Star Citizen crowdfunding campaign, you can notice that they actually provide a lot of different inside information about how they are approaching the development, what they are doing, how many people they have, and stuff like this. For me as a developer, it's really fascinating to observe something like this. And to wrap this video up, I just want to point out a few very simple rules that will make you appreciate the early access and will save your nerves. The first rule is really simple. Do you want the full game? If yes, then wait for the release. The second rule is not much more complicated. Don't have expendable money? Buy something finished. Next rule is quite obvious, but many people seem to forget about that. Since early access titles are actually playable, there's plenty of information about them online, be it articles or YouTube videos. So do your research. If you followed those simple rules and still want to buy the game, go for it, it's probably worth it. And that wraps me up for today. Thank you for watching and bye!